We've had so many technical problems this morning, and this is what I get for wanting to go early. But as you can see, I'm on location in Columbus, Indiana. First time I've been here in a couple months. This one's for Dad. Dad, I love you very much, and I miss you, and I'm always going to miss you. As it was 18 years ago today where I lost him to prostate cancer. And I want to raise a lot for cancer and cancer research therein. All right. There's someone I need to bring aboard on this early edition of Snowman in the Morning. Here he comes.
Passionate.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Unflinching.
Let's go back to losing. Parking was easier.
Unrelenting.
They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.
Totally.
This one has a chance.
DIETZ.
That's not just a murmur, that's a full-blown fibrillation.
He's back, and he's back every Thursday with us. The man they call DIETZ, Chris DIETZ, is here. Good morning, my friend. Great to have you with us. You're muted, DIETZ. Are you kidding me?
Is it going to be one of those days?
It seems. DIETZ, you're muted. Fuck.
Today.
You never have enough Keith Jackson in your life, so it works for me.
There you go. There he is. There he is. You can never. That's one thing that DIETZ told Cole when he did the original intro is to have Keith Jackson woven in throughout it. The bonus was the call from Rod Bramlett.
Yes, that
was the bonus, and the other bonus was the legendary Howie Rose with Piazza's home run. If all three of us had to pick a legendary broadcaster to be in our personal intro for DIETZ, we have both of his. It would be Howie Rose and, of course, Keith Jackson. Who would it be for you, Big Dog?
My personal intro, if I had the chance, Ken Squire.
Well,
absolute legend in NASCAR broadcasting.
Well, you all know who it is for me, fellow, who got me interested in play-by-play, and that's the late, great Jim Durham, the longtime voice of the Bulls. In fact, I'd have three. Jim Durham, a fellow who I surprised the guys with last year, Winterby, and John Rooney. Those would be my guys.
I could see that.
All right, DIETZ. When you presented your show notes to me, there was a sentence in there that I'm waiting to hear. And it simply read, wait, let me get my show notes here. I have the show notes right here. It simply said, "Dear Snowman, you were wrong. First of all, I got to make fun of you, DIETZ."
Yes, we have to talk about, and
that we do.
Of course, me doing my research. I always do my research.
That you do.
When I'm on the show, and of course, the research I did watched your take from yesterday about late great. Well, she's not late, but she's just terrible. But about Angel Reese and her latest garbage that she is. But you said something, and I want to make sure I get you on the record that you said this. You said she started at the bottom, and she has worked her way to nothing. Am I correct?
I did say that.
You said she hasn't worked herself anywhere, right? You're wrong.
Okay.
She started at the bottom, and she's gotten worse. She started at the bottom and she's gone down. That's how bad Angel Reese has been. She is one of the basketball players I have ever seen.
We can close the show with that line alone. She started at the bottom and has gotten worse.
Started at the bottom and she stayed there.
Thank you.
She's gotten worse. She's gotten worse. Like I don't understand how she could pull this off, but she has. And we'll talk about this later on. But it's gotten so bad. Random people have come up to me and said, "Have you seen what she did? Have you seen how bad Angel Reese was last night?" And I was like, "Jesus Christ!" I was like, "Why are you coming to me with this? I don't want to watch how bad she is. She's terrible." But we'll talk about her in the main event. But yeah, I wanted to point that out. Snowman, you said it. She was at the bottom. She's below the bottom right now.
All right, folks. That's our show for the week. You can tip your waitress on the way out. Thank you, Deeds. Thank you, Deeds. I bow to you for that correction. Because you're right. It's worse, man.
What else do you expect me to do?
I have to be honest. I didn't think I didn't think it would be that, but it is that way. AB Media is with us from Indianapolis, Indiana. He says, your thoughts on Angel Reese getting a participation trophy at the BET Awards. AB, I have the perfect clip for that. I just happened to load it a couple of days ago into my arsenal, and I'm going to everybody laugh, Deets included, when I respond to this.
Let's see it
in a way that where'd it go? I'm trying to find it because there are 4 words I can use to respond to that question. And of course, my wife just happens to walk by, so I'm a little distracted. So y'all are gonna have to forgive me. But Chris, go. She started at the bottom and she's gotten worse. Ain't that
participation trophy? What else is she going to get a trophy for?
Not much.
That's it. That's the only thing they can give her a trophy for.
And I found the response I'm looking for. I think everybody knows what this response means.
We do not care.
There, how's that? Because she's not going to win any real trophies. She peaked after she beat Iowa.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say. She's peaked.
She peaked when that was the peak. That was the pinnacle of her career, and that was it.
That was the pinnacle of absolutely. That was the pinnacle of her career. Chris Deets with us on this special hour, and Dog is away for a moment. He's got some technical difficulties. I'll be sure to have him get back with us. But dude, how much more? And I'm gonna put it in a way no one else will. How much more Angel Reese fatigue can man take?
Keeps cutting out.
Are you serious?
What was? I missed the question, but I hope that had to do with last night because I see that in the chat that
let's get there.
There was an NBA championship game last night, and I mean, breaking down last night's game is really, it comes down to, if you've ever watched basketball, you know why Indiana won that game.
Yeah,
because they played because they play.
Exactly. And they
Their
used their
defense
bench.
won the game.
And they used their bench.
That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. Dog, you were riding shotgun in the studio, producing the broadcast tonight, and you saw how Indiana came together after the first quarter. But let me get Dietz's. Let me repeat Dietz's comment at the end of the first quarter last night, because Dietz hung out with us in the chat. Dietz said, and OKC will mess this up. After an 8-point lead at the end of the first quarter, Dietz was the first one to say that OKC will mess this up. Dog, you were there in studio with me last night producing the thing, and we thought the exact same thing.
Yeah, and OKC just collapsed. I mean, they had the 5-point lead out of the third quarter, and they just absolutely collapsed.
They did, and it was terrible. It was terrible the way they collapsed last night. And
the thing is, Indiana was able to utilize their own bench more.
I don't even know if I can call that a collapse. I think what really happened is, and what we're seeing in this series is is the trend in basketball. And if you watch out West teams, they're trying to keep up with Golden State, the Golden States of the world.
Yes,
they're trying to score. Well, OKC is a scoring team. The problem with a scoring team, you have to outscore everybody.
Yeah,
you have to be ahead, and you have to run. When you're ahead, you have to play like you're down, like you're behind by 10 points. When you're up 10, you have to play like you're behind by 10. You keep scoring. And the thing about Indiana and most East Coast teams is they play defense. They play against teams that play defense. They know, hey, we just have to stop. If we pull stops, we can get back in the game. If we hang around, if we keep it close, we can sneak one out in the end. That's the West Coast teams and Western Conference teams into that night in and night out.
No, they don't.
Eastern Conference teams do that, and that's the major thing about this series is that Oklahoma City gotten out to runs. We saw what happened, and we saw what happened game 1 to game 2. Game 2, they got out and they ran. Now we get game 3. It reverted to on in game 1. So OKC just needs to come out and play that way in their next game. I mean,
what did I say at the end of the first quarter, Big Dog? And I echoed Jim Durham during the 91 finals when he said, Game 3 is like Game 1 down to the second. And I felt that going into the second quarter with OKC up by 8, but you can just see the confidence, and Dietz is something you talk about a lot when you're with us. The confidence of the Indiana Pacers was off the chart last night because they felt they can wipe out that lead, and lo and behold, they're up 4 at halftime. Third quarter, OK races back out to a lead, and then the fourth quarter was all defense from Indiana, holding OKC to 13 points in the fourth period.
Yeah, and this game is, like I said, for our show coming up here in about an hour, I said that this game was a 15-round thriller, and that ended up getting for a game 3, mind you. This wasn't a
Playmaker said it last. Playmaker said it last night. Let's give a shout out to the Playmaker.
Yep.
I knew Indiana was in this game when Playmaker said Indiana scored the most points in the first quarter than they have all playoffs,
and they were down by 8.
And that told me right there, Indiana's in. They're gonna get their stops when they need to. But if OKC can't stop Indiana, if they can't stop Indiana from scoring, Indiana's going to hang around, and eventually they're going to buy this thing. That's what it told. That's what that told me, and that's what I knew. All right, well, Indiana's going to come back from this.
Yeah, game 1
all
and game 1 and game 3.
All of that being said, and all that we've talked about, like game 1 was like game 3, if I'm in that OKC locker room right now, I'm telling my guys, we should be right now. Yep. We've played well enough to be up 3-0. Let's go out, take care of business in game 4, and then it's a 3-game series, and we have 2 of those games at home. So anybody who's sitting there saying Indiana's got this, Indiana is all the pressure's on Indiana in game 4. OKC, that yes, they have their back. They have their back against the wall if they lose, but Indiana needs to keep home court advantage. They need to keep it from going game 7 in Oklahoma City because we know that place is going to be rocking. We know that's a different animal. So if I'm in that Oklahoma City, they got to keep their head. They got to keep their head up and come out and play the way they did in game 2. Mm-hmm. If they do that, they'll run away with game 4. And then it's off to the races.
The problem I have with Oklahoma City is the fact that they rest too much. They rest on their laurels too much. They did it for a portion of game 2, won that game by 16, and in games 1 and 3, you saw the results. That's the problem I have with OKC. They get out to a lead, and they let teams back in the game. If they let Indiana back in the game in game 4, it's trouble. And I say the Pacers
their problem is they don't have that break the neck mentality. They get the stomp. They don't stay on, as we say, stay on the neck.
Right.
When you're on their step down, they don't have that, and that goes back to the philosophy of their philosophy is score.
Yep.
And when you don't do that, and when you don't do that for large stretches of the game, your guys get cold. Your shooters go cold. When you stop playing that way, it causes a lot of problems down the road. And once you lose it, you don't get it back. But this series by far is
it should. You know what? A lot of folks were predicting OKC in a 4-game sweep, and I said not so fast, my friend. Okay, for that to happen,
everybody was predicting a 4-game sweep.
I did not.
They were saying, "Oh, it's going to be a sweep." Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. So, my story about why I said what I did about OKC. Game 1, I walked into the bar in the third quarter. Didn't watch a lick of the game. I hadn't seen a lick of the game yet.
Yes.
Walked into the bar and everybody was arguing. There were guys, they were about, is OKC going to win it in 4? How long is this
5 or whatever? Yeah.
And all of this. And I'm like, and so I waited till somebody else chimed in because I didn't want to interrupt these guys. Somebody else interrupted, and I just said, dude, this game, I was like, this series is going 6 games at least. And the guy looked at me and said, Oklahoma's up by 22. What are you, nuts? And I just said, yeah, they'll blow this one.
Uh-huh. You did.
And so as the game progresses, I'm just sitting in the back throwing darts at the board. And all of a sudden I look up and it's a point game and I go, hey, how's that 22-point lead going? And the guy had nothing. He said nothing. And I said, what did I tell you when I walked into the bar? And his girlfriend looked at him and goes, he did. He'd say he said that was the first thing he said. And I was like, yes, thank you. I was like, thank you.
You know, Deeds, when you said that, I believed it. The moment you said it in the chat when you hung with us in the third quarter, which is where Indiana began to make their run, Oklahoma City completely took their foot off the pedal in the fourth quarter. They completely took their foot off the pedal the final 12 minutes. And then on the last play of game one, we're going to go to a break right here. On the last play of game one, when Neesmith secured the rebound and got it to Halliburton, why did no one stop the ball? Why did OKC let Halliburton basically pull a Steph Curry and walk right into that 20-foot shot from the right wing?
Why because they have no deep. They don't have a deep. They don't. Their philosophy is not built on defense.
Nope.
If it comes down to is Indiana going to get their shot? If it comes down to one shot, Indiana's get their shot because Oklahoma City can't. They just don't play defense. They're not built.
And look at what Halliburton did. Walked right into that 20-foot shot, and then last night Halliburton hit 2 big threes. In the fourth quarter, Neesmith hit a big three from the right corner, and that was that. Indiana wiped out that 8-point first quarter lead. And DG, I'll go back to a point that you said not only last night, but the 24 points in the first quarter was the most points Indiana had in the first quarter in this NBA Finals series, and yet they were still down by 8. Then the next thing you know, 42nd quarter points. They got going, and though they were down 5 at the end of 3, Indiana didn't stop. And they kept getting stop after stop after stop defensively, and Oklahoma City was tired. And we'll close this section with this point here, and I'll point it out again. I did in game 1. SGA, on 2 occasions, at least in the fourth quarter last night, drove to the basket, fell down, and just laid there. He was trying to catch his breath. That's how much pressure the Pacers have put on Oklahoma City.
Yeah. It's not. It's just Oklahoma City. They were gassed. They were gassed.
Yeah.
They really need to. They got to work on their rotations, work on everything. But again, in that locker room, you got to sit there and go, look. Of the 3 games, the Pacers have won 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And really, that's it. The fourth quarter of game 1, the second quarter of game 3, and the fourth quarter of last night. They've won 3 quarters out of the 12 that they've played so far.
Yeah. Oklahoma City
you got to be sitting there saying, we got this. Let's go. Let's get game 4 and let's make this a series.
Well, we're going to find out. A break here. We'll come back with more of Chris DIETZ after this.